The mountains of Colorado were incredibly beautiful, with white peaks stretching to the sky, and the air had that clear crystallinity that you can't feel in the city. Macy held her breath as she and Sam climbed to one of the peaks. It seemed to her that here, at an altitude of over 3,000 meters, everything was finally falling into place. They had been together for 2 years. Sam was charismatic, ambitious, and always knew what he wanted. And although his coldness sometimes frightened her, she believed that it was just fatigue from the big city. This trip was supposed to be symbolic. She hoped that their love would be strengthened in the mountains. But everything changed suddenly. As they began to descend from the top, the wind increased and the sky darkened. The storm, the warning of which they had ignored, covered them instantly. Snow fell like crazy, and the temperature dropped below -15 degrees Celsius. "We have to go back," Macy shouted over the howling wind. Sam did not respond. His eyes were focused on the GPS, but the signal was gone. They were alone, in a dead end. A few minutes later, she slipped on an icy rock and felt something snap in her ankle. Pain shot through her body and she fell into the snow. "Sam! I can't get up." He turned to her, anger in his eyes, not concern. "Are you serious? Did you twist your ankle?" His voice was calm, cold, like the air around him. "It hurts. I can't walk." He looked at her silently for a few seconds and then shrugged. "There are plenty of girls, Macy. I'm not going to die here with you. I have nothing to do with you with that leg." Her eyes filled with tears. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You can't just leave." "Yes, I can. And I am." Sam turned and disappeared into the swirling snow. Her heart seemed to stop. It wasn't just pain, it was betrayal, so sharp that even the cold seemed softer. Hours passed. The wind did not stop. She huddled against a rock, covering herself with a thin jacket. The snow was in her face, her cheeks and fingers were almost insensible. Macy realized that she would not survive. Her body was shaking, her thoughts were confused. She could no longer see the horizon, could not feel time. She just stared into the white abyss in front of her until her consciousness began to fade. At some point through the howling storm, she heard a voice. Deaf, deep, distant. "Hey! Can you hear me?" Someone leaned over her. Large hands picked her up from the snow and wrapped her in a warm blanket. Her body could no longer resist, it was too late. Before she plunged into darkness, she saw a face, thick dark hair, a beard, amber-colored eyes. He was saying something, but she heard nothing else. She woke up in a warm, wooden house. The fireplace was crackling in the corner, and there was a bowl of hot soup on the table. Her leg was wrapped around her and placed on a pillow. "Finally. You were almost frozen," a familiar voice said. She turned her head. The same man was sitting in the chair across from her, dressed in a flannel shirt, with a simple but strong look. "My name is Elias. I live here. I saw you through my binoculars. I came out at the right time." Macy swallowed back tears. She still didn't know why she was alive. "Thank you. I thought I was going to die. And you would have been right if it wasn't for that tape." Elias smiled, handing her the familiar camera. "The recording? It was on. All the time. And you know. I think you might want to watch it." Macy picked up the camera. Her hand was shaking. She pressed play and saw Sam abandon her in the middle of the storm. Every word, every step was clearly captured. Proof she had never dreamed of having. For the first time in the last 24 hours, her eyes flashed not from fear, but from the fire that was returning to her soul. This was no longer the end. It was the beginning. It had been a day since Macy had woken up in Elias's house. The snow was still flurrying outside the windows, but it was warm and cozy inside, with the fireplace filling the wooden cabin with the scent of wood and safety. The house had been built with love, solid beams, old photos on the walls, bookshelves full of volumes, and a kitchen that smelled like coffee. Elias was cooking breakfast, scrambled eggs and ham. Macy was sitting on an easy chair with a blanket around her shoulders, still slightly stunned. You have a paradise here, she said quietly. Elias looked around and smiled. Paradise is when no one lies, betrays, or chases money. And this is just home. And who were you, before you came here? He put the plate in front of her and sat down across from her. I started a cybersecurity company. It was doing well, we had clients all over the world. But at some point, I got tired of it. The money, the meetings, the fake smiles. I sold the company, bought this land, built a house, and disappeared off the radar. Macy listened with undisguised interest. His calmness was almost unaccustomed, like clean water after the toxic cocktail that had been her last year with Sam. And you? She looked down. Graphic designer. Freelance. Lived in Denver. Sam was like another world. I admired him. He was ambitious, brave, strong. At least I thought so. She laughed bitterly as she sipped her coffee. I really thought he was my husband. And when I twisted my ankle and the storm started, he just left. He didn't even look back. Elias listened silently. He didn't interrupt, didn't judge, he just looked directly into her eyes, attentively. And now, she added, he is probably living happily with his new girlfriend and smiling at investors from the stage. And you? And I was lying in the snow, thinking I was dying. He leaned forward and held out the camera. But now you have this. And the choice of what to do with it. Macy looked at the camera as if it were a weapon. The screen flashed again, Sam turning away, her words of despair lost in the snow. Her hand trembled. I want him to answer. I want everyone to see who he really is. Elias nods. Revenge is slippery ice. But sometimes the truth is the best form of justice. The next days passed slowly. The storm continued, but the silence inside the house was healing. Elias showed Macy how to heat the stove, how to navigate a map, made soup, and told her about the animals he had seen in the mountains. Her heart, still broken, began to heal. He did not ask questions when she was silent. He didn't give her advice when she cried. He was just there for her. Have you ever thought about going back to the city? She asked once. No. But it seems that the city itself will soon come to me. He smiled, nodding at her camera. 2 weeks later, when the storm had subsided and her leg was able to walk with crutches, they went down to the road. Elias helped her get to civilization. He left her a number, but didn't ask for anything in return. He just said quietly, If you ever think of running away to the mountains again, you know where to find me. Macy returned to the city, different than before. The pain hadn't gone away, but it had become more solid. She knew what she had to do. And in her backpack, among her change of clothes, was the camera. A proof. A weapon. And a chance. It was time to face the past. San Francisco. Glass skyscrapers glistened in the sun, and the streets filled with people in suits and sneakers were bustling with the energy of a big city. Here, decisions are made in seconds, and reputation is worth more than gold. In the heart of the financial district, in the prestigious conference room of Celerity Tech, one of the most important meetings of the year was being prepared, the presentation of the new CEO to strategic investors from Silicon Valley. Everyone was waiting for him, Sam Wilson. A young, energetic, innovative leader of the future, as he was called in the press. Everything in the big hall was shiny, projectors, lights, iPads for every investor. The press, photographers, video cameras. It was supposed to be a triumph. Sam, in an expensive suit, with a new blogger girlfriend in heels, confidently walked to the stage. Today we're going to show how our technology will change the cybersecurity market forever, he said, opening the presentation. The investors nodded. Some were already pulling out their pens to sign the document. But something changed. The door opened and she walked into the room, Macy Harper. Confident, elegant, in a classic suit. She was carrying a backpack on her shoulder. Her face was calm. Sam went white. What are you doing here? He whispered as she approached the stage. Go on, Sam. I just have something to add to your presentation. She pulled out a camera and handed it to one of the technicians. Please put this on the main screen. The room fell silent. The investors turned around curiously. Seconds later, a shot appeared on the screen: snow-capped mountains. Snow. Macy asking for help. And Sam. A close-up of his face. His words: "There are plenty of girls. I don't need you with that leg." And he walks away. The camera captures her alone in the snowdrift. There is complete silence. Some of the investors grimaced. Some of them immediately took off their headphones and opened their laptops. Some whisper, "Is this real?" Everything was filmed with her personal camera. No editing. The day he left me for dead. Sam rushed to turn off the recording, but it was too late. One of the main investors, Rachel Moore, a stern woman in a dark suit, rose from her seat. "Sam, do you realize that we have just witnessed not just immoral, but criminal behavior? It's manipulation!" he shouted. "The storm. I was saving myself. You are the CEO of a company that manipulates the data of millions of users. And you failed to not only save the man, but you abandoned him. And then you covered it up. It's over, Mr. Wilson. She's back with her team. We're terminating the contract. And please release the recording to the press. People need to know who they're trusting with their data." Macy stood there in silence. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were not shaking. She didn't shout, "I told you so." She was silent, because the truth spoke for her. Sam was still mumbling, but the guards were already approaching him. While they were taking him out, his new girlfriend quickly took her hand off him and left the room separately. After the meeting, several people approached Macy. Some with gratitude, some with suggestions. One lawyer offered to help her if she wanted to sue. But she refused. "I didn't want money. I wanted to stop him from deceiving anyone else." It was a warm spring evening outside. Buses drove by and shop windows buzzed. Macy took out her phone. One number was saved under the name Elias. The one who wasn't afraid of the storm. She dialed it. Rings. And then his voice. "Hello? It's Macy. How'd it go?" "Perfect. He has nothing now." "And you?" "I'm free. Is there any more coffee in the mountains?" Elias smiled on the other end of the line. "There is always coffee in the mountains." Sam was sitting in his expensive penthouse overlooking the bay. Just a few days ago, he had been interviewed by Forbes, talking about his scaling strategy and human values. And now, his phone was ringing off the hook, his email was exploding with journalists' requests, and his name was in every other hashtag on Twitter. His lawyer warned him not to make any public statements while the internal investigation was ongoing. All the brands that had signed partnerships with him terminated their agreements. Even a blogger friend made a video. "I didn't know who he really was," which gained millions of views. The door slammed loudly as security informed him that he had to leave the building by the end of the week. His life, so brilliant on the outside, fell apart in 4 minutes of video. He watched it over and over again. At first he tried to find excuses. Then he denied it. But every time he heard his own words, "There are a lot of girls. I don't need you with your leg like that," something in him broke. And there was no going back. Meanwhile, Macy returned to the mountains. Her car stopped at the familiar path that led to Elias's house. The snow had almost melted, leaving behind greenery and crystal-clear air. He was waiting for her at the gate, wearing his usual flannel shirt. He was holding a thermos. "The coffee is still hot," he said. "Good. Because I'm not going back to town until I've had 3 cups. She smiled. It was that rare smile that comes from the heart. On the veranda they sat in silence and looked at the horizon. Down in the valley, the city was glowing. It was pulsating with life, ambition, dreams, and betrayal. "I was afraid that when you woke up, you would leave and never come back," Elias said quietly. "I was afraid of that too. But then I remembered, you were the only one who didn't set conditions. You just saved me. You were just there." She took the camera out of her bag, the one that had recorded the video. She put it on the table. It seemed to have done its job. Are you sure you don't regret it? Macy sighed and looked at him. I didn't take revenge. I showed him the truth. And then it was his choice how to live with her. Elias nodded. And then he handed her a small box. What is this? She asked in surprise. It's a key. To my house. Well, ours to be exact. If you don't mind. Macy opened the box and froze for a moment. Inside was an old key with a thin wooden tag tied to it. On it was "Burn. Do not leave here." Her eyes filled with tears. But this time it was not from pain, but because she had found a harbor after a long storm. I don't mind, she whispered. I'm for it. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, Celerity Tech's investors announced a new principle. There is no leadership without humanity. Sam Wilson no longer had any contracts. No company wanted to be associated with him. He even tried to find a job as a consultant, but all doors were closed. Macy's story became an example of the power of truth. Her interview was broadcast on several TV channels. But she was not looking for fame. She was not seeking a career as a blogger. She simply returned to the place where her heart began to beat again. To a place where words have weight. Where your hands do not throw you in the storm. To a home where they never leave you.